The old ship groaned like a dying animal as pulled another cable from the wreckage. His hands were dirty with grease and alien dust. The salvage work was hard, but it paid well enough to keep food on the table back on Earth. "Hey, come look at this." Wu's voice crackled through the radio. His best friend sounded excited, which usually meant trouble. Floated through the broken corridor of the wrecked vessel. They had found it drifting in the outer reach, far from any trade routes. Nobody came out here. That was why the salvage was so good. Wu stood near a cracked window, his face pressed against the glass like a child at a candy store. "Look outside. Tell me what you see." Looked. At first he saw nothing but stars. Then the stars began to move. No, not stars, lights. Thousands of them, ships. A fleet so large it blocked out the darkness of space itself. "What is that?" whispered. "I have no idea," Wu said. His voice was no longer excited, it was afraid. "But they are coming toward us." The ships were golden, shaped like curved blades. They moved without sound, sliding through the void like predators through water. Had seen many alien vessels in his years as a salvage engineer. He had never seen anything like this. Their small ship shook. A beam of light wrapped around them, pulling them forward against their will, grabbed the wall to steady himself. Wu fell to his knees. "They are taking us," Wu said. "What do we do?" Did not answer. There was nothing to do. Their tiny salvage vessel was a grain of sand being pulled into an ocean. The Golden Fleet swallowed them whole. When the light faded, found himself standing in a hallway made of something that looked like liquid gold frozen in time. The walls glowed with soft light. The air smelled like flowers he could not name. Wu was gone, taken somewhere else, was alone. Tall figures in white armor surrounded him. They had skin like polished bronze and eyes that burned with inner fire. They did not speak. They simply pointed forward and understood he was meant to walk. He walked for what felt like hours. The hallway grew wider and grander. The ceiling rose higher until it disappeared into darkness. Finally, he entered a room so vast it could hold a city. At the far end sat a throne made of captured light, and on that throne sat a woman. No, not a woman, something far more than that. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Her skin glowed like a sunset. Her hair floated around her head like black fire. Her eyes were twin suns, burning gold and white. She wore robes that seemed to be made of woven starlight. Fell to his knees, not because he chose to, but because his legs simply gave out. "Human," she said. Her voice was soft, but it filled the entire room. It filled his entire mind. "Do you know who I am?" Shook his head. He could not find words. "I am Queen of the Dominion. I rule 12,000 star systems. I have burned worlds and birthed suns. I have watched civilizations rise and fall like waves upon a shore." She leaned forward on her throne. "And I have been watching your kind for a very long time." Finally found his voice. "Why?" The queen smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone looking at something interesting under a microscope. "Because you are strange," she said. "I have seen 10,000 species crawl through the void of space. Some conquer, some submit, some run and hide, but humans, you do something different. You adapt. You bond with each other. You love so fiercely that you will die for those you care about." She tilted her head. "This fascinates me." His heart was beating so hard he could hear it in his ears. "What do you want from me?" "I have chosen you," the queen said simply. "Chosen me for what?" "To be my consort candidate." She spoke the words like they were ordinary, like she was discussing the weather. "You will stand beside my throne or you will be destroyed. There is no third option." Felt the world spin around him. "I am nobody, I am just a salvage worker. I fix broken ships and sell scrap metal. You rule suns and stars. Why would you choose me?" The queen rose from her throne. She was taller than any human, and as she walked toward him, the light in the room seemed to bend around her. She stopped directly in front of him and looked down with those burning eyes. "Because I am tired of gods and monsters," she said quietly. "I am tired of those who bow and those who scheme. I want something real, something honest. And humans, for all your weakness, are the most honest creatures I have ever found. You cannot hide what you feel. It is written on your faces, in your voices, in every foolish choice you make." She reached down and lifted his chin with one finger. Her touch was warm, almost hot. "I have chosen you of Earth, not as a pet, not as a prisoner, as a candidate to stand as my equal, but you must prove yourself worthy. You must pass my trials, and if you fail—" She let the sentence hang in the air. "What happens to my friend?" asked. "The man who was with me, Wu, where is he?" The Queen's eyes flickered with something that might have been surprise. "Your ship is captured. Your friend is held safely. He will not be harmed unless you fail. And if I refuse your trials, then you both die and I find another candidate. There are 8 billion humans on your world. Surely one of them will be more cooperative." Looked at her. She was ancient and powerful beyond anything he could imagine. She could crush him with a thought. She could burn his entire planet if she wished. But she was also offering him something impossible. A chance to stand beside the most powerful being in the galaxy. A chance to protect Wu. A chance to see things no human had ever seen. He was terrified, but he was also in some small way curious. "What are these trials?" he asked. The Queen smiled again. This time it almost looked real. "You will see," she said. "But be warned, human. I rule suns, stars, and now your destiny. There is no going back. From this moment forward, your life belongs to me." She turned and walked back to her throne. The guard stepped forward and pulled to his feet. "Take him to his chambers," the Queen commanded. "Let him rest. The trials begin tomorrow." As was led away, he looked back one last time. The Queen sat on her throne of light, watching him with those burning eyes. She looked like a goddess. She looked like a monster. She looked, he realized with a shock, very much alone. The doors closed behind him and began his new life as a candidate for the stars. That was called Eternal Dawn. Understood why when he first saw it from the ship's window. The planet orbited so close to its sun that the sky was always painted in shades of gold and orange. There was no night here, only endless, beautiful morning. "The Queen stabilized that star herself," said the servant who guided him. "She was a young woman with copper skin and gentle eyes. 4,000 years ago it was dying. She reached out with her power and healed it. She saved billions of lives." Stared at the sun through the window. The Queen could heal dying stars. She could touch the fire of heaven itself. What was he compared to that? A small man from a small planet floating in an ocean of impossible power. His chambers were larger than any home he had ever lived in. The bed was soft as clouds. The food was strange but delicious, but could not enjoy any of it. He kept thinking about Wu, held somewhere in this golden prison. He kept thinking about the trials to come. On his second day, a tall male came to see him. He wore armor of black and gold, and his eyes burned with open hatred. "So you are the human," the warrior said. He did not bow or show any respect. "I am commander. I lead the Queen's armies. I have burned worlds at her command, and I am here to tell you something important." Stood straight and met his eyes. "What is that?" "You are a mayfly standing before eternity," said with a cold smile. "Your species lives for what? 80 years. 100 if you are lucky. The Queen has ruled for 4,000 years. She will rule for 4,000 more. You will be dust and forgotten memory long before she even begins to age." "Then why did she choose me?" asked. Smile faded. "Because she is bored. Because she wants a new toy to play with. But she will tire of you, human. They always do. And when she does, I will be there to remind her what true strength looks like." He turned and walked away, his armor clicking against the golden floor. Watched him go and felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Was dangerous. Was an enemy. He would need to be careful. The first trial came 3 days later. The queen summoned to a great hall where hundreds of nobles had gathered. They sat in floating chairs arranged in a circle, all watching him with curious or hostile eyes. At the center of the circle stood two groups facing each other with barely controlled rage. "These are House Sora and House," the queen explained. She sat on a smaller throne at the edge of the circle, watching everything with calm, golden eyes. "Their feud has lasted 800 years. It began with a stolen ship and has grown into something that consumes them both. They have come to me for judgment." The leader of House Sora stepped forward. He was old, with silver hair and deep scars on his face. "The family killed my grandfather's brother. They stole our sacred vessel. We demand blood." The leader of House was a woman with fire in her eyes. "Your grandfather's brother attacked our colony first. He killed 300 of our people. The ship was payment for the lives he took." Both sides began shouting. The noise filled the hall like thunder. The queen raised one hand, and silence fell instantly. "I have heard these arguments for centuries," she said. "I grow tired of them, so I have decided to let an outsider judge." She looked at, "Human, you will resolve this conflict." Every eye in the room turned too. He felt like a small animal surrounded by wolves. "Me," he said. "I know nothing about their history. I know nothing about law." "Exactly," the queen said. "You have no side, you have no history, you see only what is in front of you. So tell me, human, what do you see?" Looked at the two groups. They were both angry. They were both hurt. They had been fighting so long that they had forgotten what they were really fighting about. He stepped into the center of the circle. "May I ask questions?" he said. The queen nodded. Turned to the old man from House Sora. "You want blood, but if I give you blood, if House is punished, will that bring back your grandfather's brother?" The old man's face twisted. "No, but it will give us justice." "Will it?" asked softly. "Or will it just give House a reason to hate you more? Will it start another 800 years of killing?" The old man did not answer. Turned to the woman from House. "You say your people were attacked first. You say you were defending yourselves, but 300 people died. Someone must answer for that." "We already paid in blood," the woman shouted. "We lost sons and daughters in their raids." "So both of you have lost people," said. "Both of you have suffered. Both of you have reasons to be angry." He paused and looked around the circle. "But what has your anger given you? 800 years of war, 800 years of funerals, 800 years of children growing up learning to hate." The hall was silent. "On my planet," continued, "we have a saying, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. If you keep taking from each other, you will both end up with nothing." He took a deep breath. This was the dangerous part. "I suggest this. House returns the sacred vessel to House Sora, not because they were wrong, but as a gift of peace. And House Sora in return builds a memorial on House Colony, a memorial for the 300 who died. You honor each other's dead. You admit that both sides have suffered, and then you stop. You just stop." The old man's face was hard. "You ask us to forgive." "No," said. "I ask you to be tired. I ask you to be tired of burying your children. I ask you to look at the next 800 years and decide if you want them to look like the last 800. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the woman from House stepped forward. There were tears in her burning eyes. "I am tired," she said quietly. "I have buried 2 sons in this war. I do not want to bury my daughter too." She held out her hand to the old man. He stared at it like it was a snake. His whole body trembled. 800 years of hatred fought against something older and deeper. Finally, slowly, he took her hand. The hall erupted in whispers. Some nobles looked shocked. Some looked disgusted. But a few, just a few, were nodding. Looked at the queen. She sat perfectly still on her throne, her face unreadable. But her eyes were fixed on him with an intensity that made his heart race. Later, after the nobles had left and the hall was empty, the queen came to him. "You did not choose a winner," she said. "You did not give anyone what they wanted." "No," agreed. "I tried to give them what they needed." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised him. "My people choose through strength, through dominance, through fire." She paused. "You bend where others would break. I wonder if that is weakness or wisdom." "Maybe it is both," said. The queen almost smiled. Almost. That night a message appeared on screen. It was from Wu. "Stay alive, brother. I am coming for you, whatever it takes." Read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it, hiding the evidence. He had passed the first trial, but he knew the harder ones were still to come. The colony world was called Haven's End. It was a cruel name for a planet that was about to die. Stood on the observation deck of the transport ship and watched the star grow larger in the window. It was sick. Even he could see that. The light was wrong, pulsing in uneven waves. Solar flares erupted from its surface like wounds bleeding fire. 40 million people live on that planet," said the woman beside him. Her name was, and she was a human diplomat stationed in neutral space. The queen had sent her to observe second trial. If that star goes unstable, they all die. "Can the queen not save them?" asked. "She saved her own son. She could do it again." Shook her head. "She could, but she will not yet. She wants to see what you do first." Felt anger rise in his chest. 40 million lives treated like a test, but he pushed the anger down. Anger would not save anyone. "Then we save them ourselves," he said. Haven's End was chaos when they landed. The streets were filled with frightened people. Children cried for their parents. Emergency sirens wailed endlessly. The military had set up evacuation stations, but there were not enough ships for everyone, not even close. Commander was there. He stood in the center of the main city, surrounded by soldiers doing nothing. When he saw, he smiled. "Ah, the human has arrived," said loudly so everyone could hear. "Perhaps he will talk the star into behaving. Perhaps he will bore it to death with human wisdom." Ignored him. He turned to, "How much time do we have?" 3 days, she said. "Maybe 4 if we are lucky. The star will release a massive flare. Anything on the surface will burn." 3 days to save 40 million people. It was impossible, but had learned something in his years as a salvage engineer. When you faced the impossible, you did not think about the whole problem. You thought about the first step. "We need to organize," he said. "How many ships can we fit people into? How many supplies do we have? Where can we send the evacuees?" For the next 2 days, worked without sleep. He organized volunteers. He rationed food and water. He helped load elderly onto transport ships, carrying them when they were too weak to walk. He held the hands of scared children and told them everything would be okay. They watched him with confusion. Here was a human, a candidate for their queen's throne, doing the work of a common servant. It made no sense to them. But slowly something changed. Others began to help. They followed his example. They stopped waiting for orders and started doing what needed to be done. On the 3rd day, disaster struck. One of the colony's power reactors began to fail. The radiation shields were breaking down. If it exploded, it would kill everyone in a 10-mile radius before the evacuation could finish. "We need to shut it down manually," the chief engineer said. His face was pale with fear. "But the radiation levels are too high. Anyone who goes in there will die." Looked at the reactor building. He thought about Wu waiting for him somewhere. He thought about the queen watching from above. He thought about the thousands of people still waiting to be evacuated. Then he started walking toward the reactor. "What are you doing?" Grabbed his arm. "You heard him, you will die." "Maybe," said, "but if that reactor explodes, thousands die for certain. I am just one man." "You are the queen's candidate." "I am a human being," said quietly, "and I cannot stand here and watch children burn." He pulled free from her grip and ran toward the building. The radiation hit him like a wave of fire. His skin burned. His eyes watered. Every breath felt like swallowing glass. But he kept moving, following the emergency signs until he found the control room. The override system was old and complicated. His hands shook as he worked. The radiation was eating him alive. He could feel his cells dying, one by one. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Finally, after what felt like hours, the reactor powered down. The warning lights turned from red to green. The crisis was over. Collapsed on the floor, his body was broken. He could barely breathe. He knew he was dying. Through the haze of pain, he heard voices, footsteps. Someone was carrying him. Someone was crying. Then there was light, bright golden light. The Queen stood over him. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes burned brighter than he had ever seen them. She knelt beside him, and the light around her intensified until it was almost blinding. "You foolish creature," she whispered. "You brave, foolish creature." She placed her hand on his chest. The light flowed into him, warm and healing. The pain began to fade. His broken cells began to repair. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "These are not your people. This is not your world. You owed them nothing." Looked up at her through half-closed eyes. "They were scared," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "and I could help." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Her hand remained on his chest, and he could feel her power flowing through him, remaking him, saving him. "I have ruled for 4,000 years, she finally said. "I have seen warriors charge into battle screaming for glory. I have seen martyrs sacrifice themselves for their gods, but I have never seen anyone run toward death simply because others were afraid." She leaned closer. Her face was inches from his. "What are you of Earth? What are humans made of?" He managed a weak smile. "I do not know. Meat and electricity, I think, same as everyone else." Something flickered in the Queen's eyes. It might have been amusement. It might have been something else. She stood and turned to her guards. "The evacuation is complete. 40 million souls have been saved." Then she looked up at the sixth star hanging in the sky. She raised one hand, and light gathered around her fingers. With a single gesture, she reached across the void and touched the star itself. Watched in amazement as the sun stabilized. The irregular pulsing stopped. The dangerous flares calmed. In seconds, she had done what would have taken humans centuries of science to achieve. "I could have done that at any moment," she said, looking back at him. "I wanted to see what you would do with no power, with no hope." She paused. "You impressed me." Helped to his feet. He was still weak, but the Queen's healing had saved his life. "What about Commander?" asked suddenly. "He did nothing to help. Worse, he delayed the evacuation on purpose. I saw his orders." The Queen's eyes turned cold. "Is this true?" Pulled out a small device. "I have the records. He wanted the human to fail. He was willing to let thousands die to make it happen." For a moment, felt the temperature around them drop. The Queen's power crackled in the air like lightning before a storm. "We'll answer for this," she said quietly. "But not today. Today, we celebrate the lives that were saved." She looked at one last time. "Rest now, human. You have earned it. But remember this moment. Remember what it cost you to save strangers. That is the heart of your second trial, and you have passed." She turned and walked away, her robes trailing starlight behind her. Leaned against and watched her go. His body ached. His mind was exhausted. But somewhere deep inside, he felt something he had not felt since this whole nightmare began. Hope woke in a room he had never seen before. The walls were not golden like the rest of the palace. They were soft blue, like a summer sky on Earth. The ceiling showed stars moving slowly, a perfect map of the galaxy turning above his head. He tried to sit up, but his body protested. The healing had saved his life, but he was still weak. Every muscle ached. "Do not move too quickly," said a voice. Your body needs time to finish repairing itself." The queen sat in a simple chair beside his bed. She was not wearing her formal robes of starlight. Instead, she wore something plain and white, almost ordinary. Without the blazing power around her, she looked almost human, almost vulnerable. "Where am I?" asked. "My private sanctuary," she said. "No outsider has ever been here, not in 4,000 years." Looked around the room. It was beautiful but simple. There were books on shelves, real paper books from 100 different worlds. There were paintings of landscapes he did not recognize. There was a small window showing the endless stars outside. It looked like the room of someone who was very, very lonely. "Why bring me here?" he asked. "Because you almost died," the queen said simply, "and I wanted to watch over you myself." This surprised more than anything else that had happened. The most powerful being in the galaxy, sitting by his bedside like a worried friend. "You could have let your healers do it," he said. "I could have," she did not explain further. They sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, a comet drifted past, its tail glowing white against the black. "May I ask you something?" said finally. "You may ask, I may not answer." "How old are you, really?" The queen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I was born when your species was still living in caves and painting on walls. I watched your first fires from orbit. I saw your first cities rise and fall. I am older than your civilization." Tried to imagine it, 4,000 years, watching everything change while you stayed the same. It made his head hurt. "Do you ever get lonely?" he asked. The queen looked at him sharply. No one had ever asked her that before. No one would dare. "I am surrounded by billions of subjects," she said carefully. "I have courts full of nobles and armies of soldiers. I am never alone." "That is not what I asked." The silence stretched between them. Finally, the queen looked away. "Yes," she said quietly, "I get lonely." She stood and walked to the window. The light of distant stars painted her face in silver and gold. "I have outlived every friend I ever made," she said. "Every companion, every lover. They shine bright for a moment and then they are gone and I remain. After the first 1,000 years, I stopped letting people get close. It hurt too much to lose them." Watched her. This was not the terrifying goddess who commanded suns. This was a woman who had been alone for longer than human history. "That sounds like a terrible way to live," he said. "It is efficient," she replied. "Emotions are inefficient. Attachment is dangerous. A ruler must be above such things." "Must they?" She turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Thought carefully before answering. "On Earth, we have leaders too. The best ones are not the ones who feel nothing. They are the ones who feel everything and lead anyway. They carry the weight of their people's hopes and fears because they care, not because they are cold. And the worst ones? The worst ones are the ones who stop seeing people as people, who treat everyone as numbers or tools." He paused. "They become monsters." The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she laughed. It was a small sound, rusty from lack of use. "You speak to me as if I am an ordinary woman," she said. "No one has done that in 3,000 years. Should I not?" "No," she said softly. "I think I like it." She returned to her chair and sat down. For a while they simply talked, not about trials or politics or power, about small things, favorite foods, beautiful places, silly memories. Learned that the queen loved music but had not played any instrument in centuries. He learned that she had once had a pet, a small creature from a distant moon that had lived for 200 years before dying. He learned that she read poetry when she could not sleep, which was often. And the queen learned about Earth, about the oceans and mountains, about childhood in a small town, about Wu and their years of working together, laughing together, surviving together. "You love your friend very much," she observed. "He is my brother in everything but blood," said. I would die for him. And he would die for you. Without hesitation. The queen looked thoughtful. This bond you share, this loyalty, it is not commanded, it is not bought, it simply exists. That is friendship, said. That is what humans do. They do not have such bonds, she admitted. We have alliances, we have obligations, but this thing you describe, this friendship, it is rare among my kind. Maybe that is why you chose me, said. Maybe you wanted to understand it. The queen did not respond, but something in her eyes told him he was right. Far away, in another part of the palace, Wu was having a very different kind of conversation. He had been kept in comfortable rooms, treated well but watched constantly. He had spent weeks looking for weaknesses in the security, for opportunities to escape and find. Tonight he had finally found one. A group of servants had helped him. They were kind people who disagreed with the way their government treated outsiders. They gave him access codes and maps and a small communication device. Why are you helping me? Wu had asked. Because we believe in the queen, one servant said. But we do not believe in Commander. He is planning something terrible, something that will hurt everyone, including her. Wu had taken the device and slipped through the palace shadows until he found. The human diplomat was staying in guest quarters, still processing everything that had happened on Haven's End. I need your help, Wu said. Something bad is happening. Listened as he explained what the servants had told him. Commander was gathering allies among the military. He believed the queen had grown weak, distracted by her human toy. He was planning to kill her and blame humanity, starting a war that would destroy Earth. We need evidence, said. Without proof, no one will believe us is too powerful. Then we get evidence, Wu said, whatever it takes. For the next several days, Wu and worked in secret. They intercepted communications. They bribed guards. They pieced together the truth of conspiracy. It was worse than they had feared. Planned to assassinate the queen during the third trial, when all the nobles would be watching. He would kill her with a weapon specifically designed to penetrate her defenses, then claim the human candidate had done it. Earth would burn, the Dominion would fall into civil war, billions would die. We have to warn, Wu said. We have to warn the queen. The sanctuary is impossible to reach, said. No one can enter without her permission. Wu looked at the evidence they had gathered. It was enough to expose, but only if they could get it to the right people at the right time. Then we wait, he said grimly. We wait until the third trial, and we pray we are not too late. In the sanctuary, had no idea what was coming. He spent 3 more days recovering, talking with the queen, learning about her and letting her learn about him. On the last night before the third trial, she came to him one final time. Tomorrow you face the court of flames, she said. The nobles will challenge you directly. Many of them want you to fail. Some of them want you dead. And what do you want? Asked. The queen looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something she had not done in centuries. She reached out and took his hand. I want you to survive, she said. I do not know why, but I do not want to watch you die. Squeezed her hand gently. Then I will try very hard not to. She almost smiled. See that you do, human. I would be very disappointed if you died. She left and was alone with his thoughts. Tomorrow would decide everything. He just had to survive long enough to see the sun rise again. The court of flames was held in the largest chamber in the palace, a room so vast that clouds formed near its distant ceiling. Thousands of nobles filled the floating seats, their eyes burning with curiosity, contempt, or hunger. This was entertainment to them. This was sport. Stood alone in the center of the floor, wearing simple white clothes that the queen had given him. He had no armor. He had no weapons. He had only himself. The queen sat on her throne at the far end of the chamber, watching with golden eyes. Commander stood among the military officers, his face twisted in a smile that made skin crawl. Let the court of flames begin, announced a herald. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. The human candidate will face the challenges of the noble houses. May fire reveal truth. The first noble rose from his seat. He was a massive male with scars covering his arms and hatred in his eyes. I challenge the human to prove his worth, the noble declared. On my world, we test candidates through combat. I demand he face me in a duel to the death. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nobles nodded in approval. Others leaned forward eagerly. Took a deep breath and spoke clearly. I refuse. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Refusing a challenge was considered cowardly among the. It was practically admitting defeat. You refuse, the noble laughed. Then you admit you are weak. You admit you are unworthy of our queen. I admit nothing of the sort, said calmly. I simply see no reason to kill you or die myself to prove something I can prove with words. Words are worthless, only strength matters. Looked around the chamber at the thousands of watching faces. This was his chance to explain, his chance to show them what humans really were. You believe that strength is everything, he said, his voice carrying through the vast space. I understand why. Your people have built an empire through power. You have conquered worlds and burned enemies to ash. That is your way. He paused and met the eyes of as many nobles as he could. But humans have a different kind of strength. On my world, we have fought wars too. We have killed and conquered. But we have also learned something important. The greatest victories are not won with fire. They are won with understanding, with connection, with the courage to see your enemy as a person instead of a target. The challenging noble laughed harshly. Pretty words from a coward. I have faced death twice since coming here, said quietly. I walked into a radiation storm to save people who were not my kind. I took a test that could have killed me, knowing I had no power to protect myself. If that is cowardice, then I do not understand the word. Some nobles were nodding now. Others looked uncertain. The challenging noble's face was red with anger. Then prove it, fight me. No, said, because killing you would prove nothing except that I can kill. And that is not what your queen is looking for. She has warriors who can kill. She has armies that can destroy. She chose me because she wanted something different. He turned to look directly at Queen on her throne. Humans are not strong like you are strong. We cannot burn stars or crush planets, but we know how to love. We know how to forgive. We know how to look at someone completely different from ourselves and say, maybe we can be friends. The chamber was silent. The challenging noble sat down slowly, looking confused and angry but somehow less certain than before. Another noble stood. This one was an elderly female with silver hair and thoughtful eyes. You speak of love and forgiveness, she said, but humans also wage war. You have killed millions of your own kind throughout your history. How do you explain this? I do not explain it, said honestly. I admit it. Humans have done terrible things. We have murdered and tortured and destroyed. We are not perfect. We are not even close to perfect. He spread his hands. But we keep trying. Every generation we try to be better than the one before. We fail often, but we do not stop trying. That is what makes us human, not our successes, our refusal to give up. The elderly noble looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly and sat down. More challenges came. Some were questions, some were insults, some were threats, answered each one calmly, honestly, without anger or fear. Not everyone was convinced. Many nobles still looked at him with contempt, but others were beginning to see something they had not expected, something real, something true. Then Commander stepped forward. Enough of this nonsense, he declared loudly. The human speaks pretty words, but words change nothing. I have discovered the truth about this creature, and I demand that the Queen hear it. Queen raised one eyebrow. Speak, Commander. This human is a spy, announced. He was sent by his people to infiltrate our government, to seduce our queen, to weaken us from within. I have evidence that proves his treachery." Gasps echoed through the chamber, felt his heart stop. "That is a lie," he said. "Is it?" smiled coldly. "Then explain the secret messages you have been sending. Explain your meetings with other humans in our territory. Explain why your friend has been trying to escape and gather information." He pulled out a device and projected images into the air, messages that had never sent, meetings that had never happened, evidence that was completely fake. "I have never seen those messages," said desperately. "I have not had any secret meetings. This is all fabricated." "The human lies," shouted. "I demand his immediate execution." The nobles were roaring now, some calling for his death, others demanding more proof. The chamber descended into chaos. Through the noise, looked at the queen. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes were fixed on him with terrifying intensity. Then the doors of the chamber exploded inward. Wu came through first, running faster than had ever seen him run. Was right behind him, holding a device above her head. "Stop," Wu screamed. "We have proof, real proof." Guards moved to intercept them, but Wu dodged and weaved through their grasps. He had always been good at escaping trouble. "Commander is the traitor," shouted. She activated the device and new images filled the air. Real communications, real plans, real evidence of conspiracy to murder the queen and blame humanity. The chamber fell silent. His face went pale, then red with rage. Lies, more human lies. "These are your own words," said coldly. "Your own orders, your own plans to assassinate the queen during this very trial. We have recordings, we have witnesses. Your own officers are ready to testify against you." The queen rose from her throne. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. "Commander," she said, and her voice was colder than the void between stars. "Is this true?" Looked around wildly. His allies in the crowd were backing away. His soldiers were lowering their weapons. He was alone. "You have grown weak," he screamed at the queen. "You let this human poison your mind. They do not need love or friendship. We need strength. We need purity. I was trying to save us." He drew a weapon from his belt. It was a plasma blade designed to cut through anything. He lunged not at but at the queen herself. Everything happened in a single heartbeat. Moved without thinking. He threw himself between and the queen, arms spread wide, body blocking the blow. The plasma blade struck his shoulder and carved through flesh and bone. Pain exploded through his body like white fire. He screamed and fell. Raised the blade for another strike, aiming at the fallen human. But the queen was faster. Her power erupted in a wave of golden light. Fire wrapped around, lifting him into the air. His screams lasted only seconds before there was nothing left but ash floating in the chamber. Then there was silence. Lay on the floor, bleeding from a wound that should have killed him instantly. Through the haze of agony, he saw the queen kneeling beside him, her hands glowing with healing light. "You fool," she whispered. "You brave, impossible fool." Tried to smile, but the pain was too great. Darkness crept in at the edges of his vision. "Had to," he managed to say. "Could not let him hurt you." The queen's hands pressed against his wound. Light poured into him, warm and golden, and full of something that felt almost like love. "Hold on," she commanded. "Do not you dare die, I forbid it." Wanted to laugh. Even now she was giving orders. The darkness took him, and he knew nothing more. The queen carried in her own arms through the halls of the palace. She did not allow anyone else to touch him. Servants and nobles watched in stunned silence as their eternal ruler, their goddess of suns and stars, walked past them with a bleeding human cradled against her chest. She was crying. No one had ever seen Queen cry, not in 4,000 years of rule, not when she burned her enemies, not when she lost friends to time, not when she watched civilizations rise and fall. But now, tears of liquid gold ran down her cheeks and fell onto his pale face. "Stay with me," she whispered as she walked. "Stay with me. I command it. I need you to stay." The healers were waiting in the medical wing. The best doctors in the entire Dominion had been summoned. They had equipment that could rebuild broken bodies, technology that could cheat death itself. But even they looked worried when they saw the wound. "The blade cut very deep," the chief healer said. "It damaged major blood vessels and nerves. We can save his life, but the healing will take time, and there may be permanent damage." "Do whatever is necessary," the queen said. Her voice shook slightly. "Spare no resource. If he dies, I will burn this facility to the ground and everyone in it." The healers rushed to work. The queen did not leave. She sat in a chair beside the healing chamber and watched through the transparent wall as doctors worked on the unconscious human. She did not eat. She did not sleep. She simply watched and waited. Wu found her there 12 hours later. The doors were guarded, but the guards recognized him as the human who had saved the queen's life. They let him through. "How is he?" Wu asked quietly. "Alive," the queen said, "barely." Wu stood beside her chair and looked at his friend floating in the healing gel, surrounded by medical machines. "He always does this," Wu said. "Always runs toward danger instead of away from it. When we were young, he jumped into a frozen river to save a dog that had fallen through the ice. Nearly died. Did not even think about it. Just saw something that needed help and moved." "That is foolish," the queen said. "Yes," Wu agreed. "But it is also why I love him. It is why everyone who knows him loves him." The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "He threw himself in front of a weapon meant to kill me. He knew he would probably die. He did it anyway. That is who he is." "I do not understand it." The queen's voice was genuinely confused. "I have ruled for 4, I have commanded armies and destroyed fleets. I have never had anyone sacrifice themselves for me. Not truly. They died following orders. They died for glory or duty. But he chose. He chose to take that blade for me." Wu looked at the ancient being beside him. Under all the power and majesty, he saw something he recognized: loneliness, confusion, the desperate need to understand something her mind could not quite grasp. "Your Majesty," he said gently, "I think you already understand. You are just afraid to admit it." The queen turned her golden eyes on him. "What do you mean?" "You love him," Wu said simply. "And that terrifies you, because love means loss. And you have lost so many people over so many years that you have forgotten how to let anyone in." The queen stared at him. For a moment, Wu thought she might incinerate him where he stood. Instead, she looked back at in the healing chamber. "He treated me like a person," she said quietly. "Not a goddess, not a ruler, just a person. He asked about my favorite foods. He made me laugh. He told me stupid jokes that were not even funny." "That sounds like him." "I have not laughed in 300 years," the queen continued. "I have not felt anything real in longer than that. And then this small, fragile human walked into my life and made me feel things I had forgotten existed." She stood suddenly and pressed her hand against the transparent wall. "When that blade struck him, I felt something break inside me. Not anger, something deeper. Something that hurt more than any wound I have ever suffered." She paused. "Is that love?" "I think so," Wu said. The queen closed her eyes. "Then you are right, I am terrified." They stood in silence for a long time after that. 3 days later, opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was golden light. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then his vision cleared, and he saw the queen sitting beside his bed, watching him with an expression he had never seen before. "Welcome back," she said softly. Tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The queen held a cup to his lips and helped him drink. "What happened?" he managed to ask. "You were dying, the healer saved you, but it was close." She paused, very close. Looked down at his body. His shoulder was wrapped in advanced bandages, but he could feel that it was mostly healed. The medical technology was incredible. How long was I out? 3 days. And Ash nodded slowly. He remembered now. The blade, the pain, the Queen's face as darkness took him. You were crying, he said. The Queen looked away. I do not cry. You were crying, I saw it, golden tears. She was silent for a moment. Then she turned back to him, and her eyes were soft in a way he had never seen. You almost died for me, she said. No one has ever done that, not really, not by choice. I was not thinking, admitted. I just saw the blade and moved. That is what Wu said. He said you always do this. Run toward danger to help others. It is a bad habit. It is a beautiful habit. The Queen reached out and touched his face gently. You are a beautiful creature of earth, fragile and foolish and braver than anyone I have ever known. Felt his heart beating faster. Your Majesty, I am just a man. I am nothing special. You are wrong, she said. You are the most special thing I have encountered in 4,000 years, and I almost lost you before I could tell you that. She leaned closer. Her face was inches from his. I have decided something, she said. I am tired of being alone. I am tired of watching everyone I care about turn to dust while I remain. I want to feel things again, even if it means getting hurt, and I want to feel them with you. Looked into her eyes. They burned like suns, but behind the fire he saw something human, something real, something vulnerable. I am not going to live 4,000 years, he said quietly. You know that. Humans are short-lived. You will outlive me. I know. And you still want this. I would rather have 50 years of feeling alive with you than another 4,000 years of feeling nothing alone. Did not know what to say, so he did something simple and human instead. He took her hand and held it. Then let us try, he said. The Queen smiled. It was a real smile, full and warm and genuine. It transformed her face, made her look young and hopeful instead of ancient and tired. I have something to tell you, she said. Something important. What? I brought Wu and before the court. I thanked them publicly for exposing treason and saving my life. And then I made an announcement. Waited. I declared that humanity is under my protection. Any species that threatens Earth threatens the Dominion. Your people are safe now. Forever. Felt tears prick his own eyes. You did that for us. I did that because it was right, the Queen said. And because the man I love would never forgive me if I let his home burn while I watched. The man I love. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. I love you too, said. The words came out easier than he expected. I do not know when it started. Maybe when you told me about your pet that died. Maybe when you laughed at my bad jokes. Maybe when I saw how lonely you were under all that power. But I love you, not the Queen, just you. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. Say my name again, she whispered. I have not heard anyone say that in centuries. Everyone calls me Queen or Majesty or Great One. You are the first person in so long to just call me by my name. Then I will say it every day, promised. She laughed, and the sound was like music. Outside the healing room, Wu and watched through the window. They could not hear what was being said, but they could see the two figures holding hands, foreheads touching, smiling at each other like there was no one else in the universe. Is this really happening? Asked. I think so, Wu said. I think my idiot best friend just won the heart of the most powerful being in the galaxy. What happens now? Wu grinned. Now things get interesting. 1 month had passed since the events in the Court of Flames. The Dominion was still buzzing with the news. Commander's treason had shaken the military. The Queen's tears had shaken the people, and a human standing beside the throne had shaken everything else. Stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city, watching the eternal dawn paint the sky in gold and orange. His shoulder had healed completely. though sometimes it ached when he moved wrong, a reminder of the choice he had made. "Deep thoughts?" Wu asked, walking up beside him. "Just thinking about everything that happened. It does not feel real sometimes." Wu laughed. "You get captured by an alien empire, chosen by their god queen, survive 3 impossible trials, get stabbed saving her life, and now you are basically king of the galaxy. What part of that should feel real?" "Fair point." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. 2 humans, small and fragile, standing on a world that orbited a star their host had personally healed. "So what happens now?" Wu asked. "The queen, wants me to stay, as her equal, her partner." "And what do you want?" Thought about it. He thought about Earth so far away. He thought about the small town where he grew up, the friends he had left behind, the simple life of salvage and repairs. He had loved that life. It had been easy and honest. But then he thought about her loneliness, her power, her desperate need for something real. He thought about the way she laughed at his jokes, the way she looked at him like he was the most important thing in the universe, the way she had cried when she thought he was dying. "I think I want to stay," he said quietly. Wu nodded. "I figured you would say that." "What about you? You could go home. Is taking the new treaty back to Earth. You could go with her." "And leave you alone with these crazy son?" Wu grinned. "Not a chance. Someone has to keep you out of trouble. Besides, the queen offered me a position, official advisor to the royal consort. Basically, I get paid to tell you when your ideas are stupid." "That could be a full-time job." "I know. I negotiated for extra vacation days." They laughed together, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Just 2 friends joking around like they had done for years. Then the door opened behind them, and walked onto the balcony. She was wearing her formal robes of starlight, her crown of captured flame. She looked like the goddess she was, ancient and beautiful and terrifying. But when she saw, her face softened into something human. "Am I interrupting?" she asked. "Never," said. Wu made a show of bowing dramatically. "I will leave you 2 alone. I have very important advisor things to do, like napping." He walked away, leaving and alone on the balcony. The queen moved to stand beside, looking out at the city spread below them. Millions of lives, going about their business, unaware that their ruler was standing above them having a quiet moment with a human. "Leaves tomorrow," said. "She carries with her a treaty that will change human history." "I know," she showed me the terms. "Full alliance with the Dominion, protection for Earth, trade agreements, technology sharing. It is more than humanity could have dreamed of." "Your people deserve it. You are remarkable creatures." Paused. "Also carries a message from me to your world's leaders." "What kind of message?" "A warning and a promise. I told them that Earth is under my protection. Anyone who threatens your world threatens me. But I also told them that I expect humanity to grow into this new role, to become worthy of their place among the stars, not through conquest or war, but through the things that make you special. Your empathy, your courage, your foolish, beautiful habit of running toward danger to help others." Smiled. "That sounds like something you would say." "I learned it from someone." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. The sun hung in the sky, steady and strong, healed by the woman beside him 4,000 years ago. "I have been thinking," said finally, "about what you said, about how humans lead, how the best leaders feel everything and lead anyway." "What about it?" "I want to try that. I have ruled through power and fear it worked, but it cost me everything that mattered. I want to try ruling with something else, with empathy, with connection, with the things you taught me." Looked at her. "That will not be easy. Your people are used to strength. They might see kindness as weakness." "Then I will show them that kindness takes more strength than cruelty." She turned to face him fully. "Will you help me?" "Is that why you chose me? To help you become a better ruler?" Shook her head. I chose you because I was lonely and curious and desperate for something real. Everything else was an accident." She reached out and took his hand. "But a happy accident, the best accident of my 4,000 years." Squeezed her hand gently. Her skin was warm, almost hot, pulsing with the power of captured suns. But beneath the power he could feel her pulse, her heartbeat, evidence that under all the majesty she was alive, she was real, she was his. "I have a request," he said. "Name it." "When we are alone, when there are no nobles or servants or politics, can you just be? Not the queen. Just the woman who laughs at my jokes and reads poetry when she cannot sleep." Smiled. It was the same smile he had seen in the healing room, full and warm and human. "I would like that very much," she said. A servant appeared at the balcony door, looking nervous. "Your Majesty, the council is assembled. They await your decision." "Decision about what?" asked. "About you," said. "About your official position in the Dominion, about our future." She looked at him seriously. "I told them I would give them my answer today." "What will you tell them?" "That depends. What do you want of Earth? Do you want to return home as a hero? Live out your days on your own world, surrounded by your own kind? I will make you the most honored human in history. You will want for nothing." Thought about the offer. It was tempting. A part of him would always miss Earth, would always miss the simple life he had left behind. But another part of him, a bigger part, had found something here he had never expected to find. "I want to stay," he said. "Not because of the power or the glory. I could not care less about being a king or a consort or whatever title you give me. I want to stay because being with you feels right, because I love you, because I want to see what happens when an ancient goddess and a salvage worker from Earth try to build something together." Sai's glowed brighter, not with power, with joy. "Then stay," she said. "Stay with me, not as a subject or a consort, as my equal, my partner, my friend." "Your friend." Wu explained it to me, friendship, that bond humans share. I want that with you. I want everything with you. Leaned forward and pressed his forehead against hers, just like they had done in the healing room. "Then you have it," he said, "all of it for as long as I live." "That is not very long," said softly. "Compared to you are a mayfly." "Then make every day count." They stood together as the servant waited nervously. Finally, straightened and put on her royal mask. "Tell the council my decision," she said to the servant. "The human will remain as my chosen partner. He will stand beside my throne as my equal, and any who question his place will answer to me." The servant bowed and hurried away. Turned back to and took both his hands in hers. "I have ruled suns and stars for 4,000 years," she said, "but I think ruling beside you will be the greatest adventure of all." Grinned, "Just do not expect me to bow." For the first time in centuries, the queen laughed, really laughed. The sound echoed across the balcony, bright and free and full of life. Below them, citizens looked up in confusion. They had never heard that sound before, but somehow it made them smile too. Far away, a ship carrying sailed through the void toward Earth, bearing news that would change human history forever. In his new quarters, Wu was already decorating his office with human things, preparing for his role as the most annoying advisor in history. And on the balcony of the Eternal Palace, a goddess and a salvage worker stood hand in hand, watching the sun they both loved, thinking about all the tomorrows yet to come. It was not the ending had expected, when he had been pulled from his broken ship all those weeks ago. It was better. It was the beginning.